Today I fucked up by defining a word for my son. Once a week, usually Friday nights, but we had to move it to tonight this week. My husband and I have a nice date night. Sometimes we go out and either have one of our sets of parents or a babysitter watch them. Sometimes we just have a very romantic dinner at home after the kids go to bed. Tonight, my husband and I have a date night of the latter variety planned. My husband wanted to surprise me with what dinner would be tonight, so he got the groceries by himself. While he was out today shopping for all of the elements of our dinner, I was with the kids at home and doing the laundry. Our kids were all in the living room, with the younger two playing and our oldest, who's 10, watching a cooking show while he was weaving a potholder. At one point, the presenter of the show mentioned that oysters, which were in the recipe, were aphrodisiacs. My son immediately asked me what that meant, and I told him that it's a food that's supposed to make you want to have sex. He said gross, then carried on watching. When my husband came home with the groceries, he called the kids over to help him put them away. After a minute of putting things away, our oldest son yelled, "Ew." My husband then laughed and asked what was wrong, and our son said, "I know what oysters are for, Dad," in the most disappointed tone I've ever heard him use to speak. He's been shooting both of us the most withering looks you can imagine from a 10-year-old all afternoon. I think he's not enjoying the day too much. Too long did not read. I told my son what aphrodisiac means when it was mentioned on a show about oysters, and now he's grossed out and correctly guessed what my husband and I had in mind after dinner. Don't remember how old I was, but I similarly asked what a brothel was because on the Simpsons episode where Sideshow Bob was trying to kill Bart on a boat, the boat ran aground and Chief Wiggum and some other cops were in robes and said something like, "Good thing you guys crashed next to this brothel." I didn't get the joke, so I asked. Well, my mom just told me it's where prostitutes lived and I pretended to act oblivious but unwilling to ask what that was because I had heard of prostitutes before and what they did. My mom is pretty conservative, so I'm surprised she answered. My 13-year-old asked me what castration meant during dinner the other night while watching a video about livestock. She was not happy about the answer. She just looked at me and said, "This conversation is done now," and stared at her dinner. Love it. This is hysterical. Rolling on the floor laughing. That's the best story. He will remember this day for eternity though. I hope you give his wife oysters on their wedding day, lol. Ha ha ha, amazing. A coworker with a 10-ish year son who lives on a farm was learning about breeding and connected the dots that humans also have to have sex to have kids. I guess he asked his mom if that means mom and dad has sex, and grandma and grandpa, and was overall grossed out by the answer. Then he walks into the house where dad is and says, "Dad, I had to have sex," in a very pissed off tone. His dad, obviously shocked by this comment that as far as he knows is from nowhere, asks what he's talking about. He says, "Well, I want to have kids and that means I had to have sex." The lunchroom was howling with laughter when he told us this story. That was a good day, lol. I feel like 10 years old is definitely old enough to know about proper anatomy and that sex is how babies are made and everything else. In my opinion, your response wasn't too crazy. Today I fucked up by forgetting who I was with. When I was a teenager I was hanging out with this girl I liked. We must have been around 18. I had a habit back then of having people over and I'd at some point end up playing my guitar. I did this a lot because I was that dickhead who had a guitar and played it. I also did it because it was a way of showing off to the girl I liked. Anyway, I'm really into the guitar playing and off in my own world and I hear crying. I look up and the girl is crying, and naked. I guess she had decided to compete with my guitar or something? I console her, assure her I very much am happy she is naked and was just in guitar land, and one thing leads to another and we get jiggy with it and all is well. 5 years later, I've been sleeping with this girl every now and then since. I actually wanted to be in a relationship but she didn't, and so if we were both single we would hook up here and there. No hurt feelings, just an open offer, I guess, that I would like it to be more. So the last time we hook up she needs to head home that night and I'm walking her to the bus stop. She was embarrassed about something. Honestly, I can't remember what it was now, and to make her feel better I told her the story of the girl who got naked and cried whilst I was playing guitar one time. I told her the story of herself to make her feel better because that was way worse. In my brain, Guitar Girl was a different girl from my past for a minute. She paused and says, "And who was that then?" And I go, "FFF foo UUUCKKK, I'm sorry." And that was the end of that situationship. TLDR. Told a girl a story of herself getting naked and crying whilst I played guitar to make her feel better about herself. This is the first thing that came to my mind on reading this. Sounds comical in hindsight, but you could have tried to salvage it by being like, "You've come a long way since then." That's not a "today I fucked up," that's just hilarious tears of joy. Sounds like you struck a chord with her. How would that be a story that would make anyone feel better? "Hey girl I just slept with. Let me tell you about the time some girl got naked and started crying while I was playing guitar. I'm not sure how you spin that to not sound douchey. I'm really into the guitar playing and off in my own world and I hear crying. I look up and the girl is crying, and naked. You're either the world's best or worst guitarist. There's no in between. Today I fucked up by accidentally stabbing my sister. I, 17 female, was home alone today. My parents were at my aunt's house and they brought our dog with them. I've never been home completely alone before because I've always had our dog, Nikita, there with me, so I've never really felt unsafe. My sister, 22 female, doesn't live with us. I was cleaning my room and heard a door open downstairs. I have a lot of pocket knives because my grandpa gets me one every year for Christmas. I grabbed my phone and a knife. This one is about 4 inches, and went to the top of the stairs. I called out and asked if my parents were back early, but no one replied. I walked downstairs and my sister jumped out to scare me, panicked and stabbed her in the stomach. I called 911 and we took an ambulance to the ER and our parents met us there. Apparently she was dropping off a vacuum she borrowed and my parents forgot to tell me. That was a few hours ago and so far it looks like I missed anything important and she will be okay. But yeah, today I stabbed my sister, woman standing, on my phone, sorry for format. Too long, did not read. I was home alone and my sister came to return a vacuum. She tried to scare me and I stabbed her. Edit for clarification. We do scare each other but the most we say is boo from around a corner. The way she scared me was by grabbing me from the side and I couldn't fully see her. I don't live in a good area and there has been a lot of daytime robberies lately. There were no cars home so it is reasonable to think the house is empty. In my head I was probably thinking about a robbery. I bet your sister never tries to scare you again. Glad she'll be okay. For future reference, don't walk towards danger unless you need to defend a loved one. Lock, barricading your door and calling 911 is a much better idea. I guess it's a good thing Grandpa didn't teach you how to shoot. I'm glad your sister will be okay. I wonder if Grandpa is gonna buy you another knife this year? This isn't your fault. Not really your sister's fault either, actually. She was just joking, you were scared. Hopefully it's something you can still laugh about 50 years from now. Hey sis, remember that time I stabbed you? Well, that's going to be a good story in a few years. She's probably going to have the scar to prove that Op is absolutely not one to be messed with. Today I fucked up by getting too high with my adult kid and getting the paramedics called on me. I have 2 grown, independent daughters, and I am so damn proud of them. I struggle to communicate just how proud of them I am, and it's getting harder since they're outliving their lives. Yesterday my daughter came home from work, and we were chatting. She asked if I wanted to split a joint with her, and it sounded so fun. I take edibles every now and again, but I haven't smoked in a couple years, but this wasn't my first weed rodeo by any stretch. We went outside, and had the best conversation. I told her how happy I was to see her being herself, and how she is such a gift to the world, and how proud I am to be her dad. I cried a bit, we hugged, it was the conversation I've wanted to have with her forever. When we went inside, I started to feel a bit wobbly, so I sat down in a big chair. I lost consciousness. Important note: I pass out a lot. When my nervous system gets overwhelmed, I will just shut down. When I came to, my wife told me that I hadn't been breathing. I thought to myself, I'm dying, which means I won't need to apologize tomorrow for this terrible weed mistake. She left, and my other daughter stayed with me. She held my head, and I felt so grateful she was there with me. I also told her how proud I was to be her dad, and how amazing she is doing. She is a teacher, and she is a ray of light for all those little ones. My kids are fucking amazing. I started getting fuzzy again, and I fully expected to fade away and never come back, and I was at peace with that. When I woke up again, there were like 7-8 first responders standing above me in my bedroom, asking me a series of questions. I tried to explain to them that this is a thing that's happened to me before, but my cognitive faculties just weren't there. Eventually I was able to stand up, walk back and forth steadily, and sign a waiver relieving them of any culpability should I actually die. Before they left, the cop asked me where I got my weed. I live in a legal state, but I was not about to bring my daughter into this. I didn't answer the question, pretended to dissociate, laid on my bed and closed my eyes. They left after that. My wife stayed up with me a bit longer, until she was sure I was okay. She also stayed up with my kids. When she came back into bed 2 hours later, she told me I said, unprompted, fucking cops, I ain't no narc. Too long did not read. I fucked up a beautiful moment with my daughter by getting way too high and having the paramedics called on me. Ha ha ha, no, I promise you as a daughter this is probably still a really nice moment with them. Plus you showed them you're not a narc. Tears of joy W dad. The cop wanted some of that killer weed that had you starfished on the floor. You should not be passing out when you get stressed or excited. You have some kind of underlying health issue, probably with your heart, that you need to get taken care of because you will just drop dead someday soon if you don't. Go to a doctor. Do it for your daughter's FFS. I always wanted to have a conversation like that with my dad. He passed away when I was 16. He frequently told me how much he loved me and was proud of me, but my adult self would kill to hear that from him now. I don't think this is a fuck up, I think it's just a sweet funny story you'll never forget. Besides, don't take a big hit of a joint if you haven't smoked in a while. What advice would you give for a parent to be? I'm pregnant with my first kid and I just hope when he's grown up I do as good a job as it seems you have. Face holding back tears. Also this reminds me of a Key and Peele skit lol. Love the fact that even when so high you think you're dying, you still won't snitch. You ain't no narc.